What is good, everybody, and welcome to FPL Today Live. Thank you guys for joining me during the midday stream. Sorry to all of you guys that like the midday streams, the fact that I haven't done one for a while. Apologies for that. I have been trying, but work's just kind of been getting in the way, and the best time for me has been in the evening. But today we are streaming during the day for all of you guys. So, of course, first of all, what is everyone drinking? As it's a daytime stream, I'm not drinking alcohol, just drinking some sort of tropical fruit crush fizzy drink. I see a bunch of people in the stream already. We've got about 60 people currently watching. We've got Alan Arjadinovic, we've got Neil Krastin, and hopefully I said that right. MP Gaming, Ashwin Kumar, Rohan Sharma, good to see you in the chat, my friend. Sanjog Subedi, Ivan Jovicic, Anel Goniwi, 2 points. However, we do have Wan-Bissaka coming off the bench for Benjamin Mendy, so that will go up to 61 points. And then we're waiting on Ings. That red does not mean Ings isn't playing tonight. That red is unlikely to play the next match, which is against Liverpool. He can't play against his owner club. So if Ings has a great game today, fantastic for me. If Matthew Ryan keeps a clean sheet, fantastic for me. I mean, the ideal situation would be Ings is rested for some strange reason. Maybe they try a formation without him in because they know they're facing Liverpool and they can't use him. And then Ings doesn't feature at all, which means Fraser comes in, and then Brighton keep a clean sheet with masses of save points for Ryan. That would be the ideal. But not too bad a game week, above the average. It's seen my rank drop just a little bit from 279,388 to 299,769. However, I do have points coming off the bench. I don't think there's going to be many owners of Southampton and Brighton options, so I don't think points will affect me massively in this game. And I have probably the highest owned player in the two sides, which is Danny Ings. So fingers crossed I should come out with a green arrow from game week 5. So let's get into some questions. Also, of course, check out the poll questions. We do have who was your captain for game week 5. We have who owns Orion Fraser. And then, of course, when you click that one, it asks, did he actually play? Is he coming off your bench or is he staying on your bench? We've got Mo Salah or No Salah. And then we've got points so far this game week. And I've already seen that someone has asked about Mo Salah or No Salah. It is the hot topic that just will not stop until Mo Salah gets some significant returns. So the way I'm going to look at it today on the Mo Salah or No Salah is I'm going to compare his stats in the first 5 game weeks to every other midfielder. And I think really it's Hazard and Mané that are really the standout options to pick instead of him in that kind of price range. And then we're also going to look at last game week, potentially look at other game weeks as well, and see if we can figure out if this is something that is similar to Harry Kane last year, where he had a slow start, the underlying stats were still there, but he just wasn't converting, or if this is something we just have to wait a little bit longer and there's going to be some decent returns. So if we actually look at season-long, first 5 game weeks, Mohamed Salah, of course, is significantly the most expensive midfielder at 13 million. He's got 2 goals so far. That is lagging behind Richarlison, Lucas Moura, Ryan Fraser, Roberto Pereira, Sterling, Pedro, Mané and Hazard. So there's plenty of options getting more goals. Penalty area touches, Salah is top with 40, Sterling on 38. However, Sterling has played 1 less game. Silva's on 35, David Silva, who's also appeared in 1 less game. Hazard's on 29, and then you're kind of falling off the pace a bit. Mané on 28 compared to Salah's 40. And then as far as attempts go, Salah is usually the midfielder with the most attempts, 23 attempts, Mané with 15, Pedro with 15, Eriksen with 15, Pogba with 15, Hazard is actually on 14, so is Ruben Neves had 3, and Mané's had 2. Then why is he lagging behind them so much in actual goals? And then shots on target, Salah, Pogba and Mané on 9 each. Hazard's only had 6, and you've got the likes of Mané, Sterling Ali, Pedro, Maddison and Eriksen in contention there. And then if we have a quick look at distribution as well, chances created, Salah's actually created 16 chances, which is on par with David Silva. That is a lot more than Willian, Eriksen, Fraser, Hazard. Mané is only creating 8 chances so far. But as far as big chances, Fraser has created 6 big chances so far this season. That's the most of any midfielder, and he's 5.7 million. So I think even if we don't get any answer out of Mo Salah or No Salah, I definitely think that we need to be looking at Ryan Fraser as someone in our sides, but not necessarily on our bench, which I've now learnt my lesson there. David Silva's created 4 chances, big chances. Salah's created 2. I think Mane's created 2 as well. Big chances created by Hazard is 2 as well. But total assists is in favour of Fraser on 2, Sanchez on 2, Salah on 2, Hazard on 2. Mané, I believe, only has the 1, if he has any at all. Actually, Mané's got no assists so far. But Milner is top of assists with 3 assists. So the question is, do I think it's time to drop Mohamed Salah? Now, for me, the underlying stats are still there, which means I'd give him a bit more time. Of course, if for those of you around last year, I did the same with Harry Kane, and it burned me for a while. But Harry Kane did come good season long and still got points. So I think with Southampton next, now is definitely not the time to drop him. If you were going to drop him because of the return on the underlying stats, I would say it's against Chelsea and Man City. I think those are the 2 sides that, if a side's going to dominate Liverpool and potentially stop them scoring, Chelsea and Man City look the most likely to out of all the teams in the Premier League. But you then do have Huddersfield and Cardiff in game week 9 and 10. So potentially what you could do is take him out for game week 7, then save a transfer in game week 8 if you don't have any urgent business. And then you've got 2 transfers if you want to try and bring him back in for Huddersfield and Cardiff. But even against Spurs, he was getting good chances, and on another day, he could have converted those. It is then Arsenal in game week 11. And then if I can find Liverpool, because I've just changed it, then it's Fulham in game week 12. So it's very up and down the fixtures for Liverpool. But for me, I would not be getting out Salah when he's got Southampton next. Also saw question about Benjamin Mendy. Of course, he was not even in the squad for the game against Fulham. Benjamin Mendy apparently picking up a small knock and knee injury. It could be weeks or days and maybe longer. Having Fabian fit is so important, is what the quote was from Pep Guardiola. And of course, Fabian Delph looked pretty good. That is what I've got on Premier injury so far. 25% chance of playing. What I would say is, to me, my guess is, because it doesn't sound serious, nowhere have I heard it sound serious. So I would potentially try and bench him for next game week, or maybe even start him. And then if he doesn't play or isn't in the squad, then have who you want to come in be the first substitute. Now, for instance, if I had started with, say, Wan-Bissaka instead of Pedro or Salah, I could have had Fraser as my first sub who would have come in for Mendy. So if you've got someone that you think can come in for Mendy, I would keep Mendy for now. I personally think if Mendy doesn't play, I've got Wan-Bissaka that could come in, Newcastle at home. Bennett isn't an ideal option, but Holebas against Fulham, Alonso against West Ham. So I've got options there where I think I can get away with holding on to Mendy. As far as Agüero goes, we'll see. 75% chance of playing. Agüero seems more likely to not be as big an issue as Mendy is. Agüero, so far, something in the ankle when he fell down. He felt something. We will see tomorrow. Currently being assessed. Is at 50% likely to play for the next game week. So it's more likely than Mendy. So for me, this is, and Kurt, you always said it on the FPL Wildcat stream, which we should be streaming tomorrow, by the way, during the evening if you want to join in on that. But if we have a look at my bench, I think Fraser, Wan-Bissaka are strong bench options to come in for this side if necessary. Now, I've gone with set and forget with Brighton goalkeeper. They are playing Tottenham. It is at home, though. There's a potential I get decent points there, but of course, Spurs could have a field day. But I've decided that I'm just going to spend, until I'm happy with a rotation pair of goalkeepers, I'm going to spend as little as possible in goal. So goalkeeper situation next game week doesn't look amazing, but other than that, I think I can manage. Of course, Ings is out as well, so I'll probably have to use a transfer, but a strong bench is definitely beneficial, especially at this point of the season. By the way, while I try and find another question, if anyone does want to support the channel in any way, various links in the description down below, like Patreon. Got 15 Patreons now, so thank you guys so much for the support with the Patreon page, which is much appreciated. Who would be my captain option in game week 6? So, I always like to look at the fixtures. It's just generally what I do, to pick my captain choice from the players I've got in my side. But of course, when you ask that question, you could have different players than me. Now, fixture-wise, for game week 6, Leicester look like they have a good fixture against Huddersfield at home. There, the options are mainly Maddison and Vardy in my eyes. Spurs are away against Brighton Hove Albion. Would I risk Kane if you had Kane? Probably not on the form that he's currently in and it being an away game. Arsenal against Everton. If you've got Lacazette, you could risk it. But of course, with Lacazette, there's the risk of rotation. Bournemouth away, wouldn't really go for. You've got Chelsea away, but this is against West Ham, whose defence hasn't looked great. Hazard has, of course, been in form, but I believe Hazard generally is better at home than he is away. You could potentially go Hazard, but I'm not sure that would be something I would risk. Got Man United versus Wolves. If you own Lukaku, Lukaku looks like a decent shout to pick up some points. Liverpool versus Southampton. I think if you've got Mané or Salah, then these would be the ones you're captaining. Now, I know they didn't return last game week, and I know there's all these questions about them, but if you own one of those two, or maybe even Firmino, if you own Firmino, because he has returned in the last 2 game weeks, I think Liverpool versus Southampton is a tasty-looking fixture for potential big point haul. Now, defensively, Southampton haven't been as bad as they were last year by any stretch of the imagination so far. They have conceded 57 shots, which is putting him in the top half of the table for shots conceded on goal. Goals conceded, they've only conceded 4, which is better than the likes of Watford, Wolves, Tottenham, Man United, Arsenal. So they're not doing bad defensively. Shots on target conceded as well. Southampton have actually conceded quite a few shots on target, putting them in the bottom half of the table with 24 shots conceded. So for me, it's possible that against Southampton, Liverpool have a field day, because also big chances, they've conceded 10 big chances. That's 2 per game on average. And that again puts them in the bottom half of the table for big chances conceded. Now, the likes of Fulham are conceded a lot of big chances, but then Burnley and West Ham are 2 and 3 after that. So Fulham and Burnley and West Ham have West Ham against Chelsea. Again, that's going to support your Hazard pick. Burnley have Bournemouth, so it is at home for Burnley, but they've conceded quite a few shots, big chances on their goal. So someone like, would I go with a Bournemouth option? Probably not. But then Watford against Fulham, an outside pick for captaincy would potentially be someone like Troy Deeney or Roberto Pereira. So for me, though, that Liverpool fixture just looks too good to really ignore. Zaha against Newcastle could be an outside bet as well, but I think, for me anyway, I'll be looking at Liverpool for my captaincy option. Preben, the Ings thing is because he can't play against Southampton next game. It's Sheepy 1. I have to agree with your premise that Sterling has got some good underlying stats. Again, the issue for me there is rotation. Because, to be honest, he is one of the better midfielders as far as underlying stats. After the likes of Mané, Hazard and Salah, I actually forgot Salah's name then. The only one I would really be considering in that price bracket is Sterling. If Sterling could stay nailed on, he has really improved his game to the point where he is a goal threat. He's had, from 4 appearances, 13 attempts on goal, 9 from inside the box, 2 big chances, 7 shots on target, and for the fact that 9 attempts from inside and 7 shots on target, that is not a bad return. If we have a look at expected goals, I know Salah's still going to be top, which is worrying because it shows how out of form, at least in front of goal, Salah is. But then again, he had a lot of chances last season and was still putting them away. But expected goal involvement, Salah is still top. Pogba's also pretty high up there as well. Hazard is then the standout option of expected goal involvement, 3.76 for Hazard. Salah is at 4.32. Expected goals, Salah again is head and shoulders above the rest. Pogba is still up there again. Hazard is still third though, above Mané. So for me, the issue is both Hazard and Mané are scoring more than the chances they have suggest they should, which even means they're doing really well this season, which, let's be fair, Hazard has looked really good, Mané has looked really good in some games, or that this isn't sustainable, the rate of goals they're scoring, whereas Salah and Pogba are underperforming compared to the kind of chances they're having in the amount of goals they got, whereas Sterling is pretty much, he's outperforming it, but not by much. So Sterling potentially looks more sustainable with, I said the same word twice, like I was correcting myself. Sterling looks like he could keep his returns up at this kind of rate, to me anyway, which of course would be fantastic if you're bringing him in. Expected assists, Milner is still really high for expected assists, despite the fact that he's not highest in chances created or anything like that. Hazard is above Salah and easily above Mané for expected assists, so just in case you were wondering. And Sterling is not very high on expected assists either. Bernardo Silva and Fernandinho are just below David Silva as far as that is concerned. So Sterling would be a decent shout, but then of course there is the issue of rotation. So it would be a risk, but it could pay off for you. Viali, I use Fantasy Football Scout for all of my stats and all of that kind of stuff. So if you want to check it out, feel free. So I'm just going to put this in because I don't want to miss anything that happens. Yeah, I use Fantasy Football Scout. You can also use Fantasy Football Fix as well. That's another popular website for that kind of thing. Okay, so someone was asking about Lukaku, which I think is one we should look at as well. Lukaku currently was someone that wasn't on my radar. Then, of course, he had a good game week before the international break and a good game week after the international break. And at 11 million is slightly cheaper than Agüero, but is pretty much after Kane, one of the most expensive strikers in the game. I've always not been the biggest fan of Lukaku. Don't get me wrong, it's clear that he's a good striker. But when I've owned him, it's a bit like Hazard. He's not really performed when I've owned him. And this isn't based on any stats or anything at all. This is just a general affinity towards the player. Certain players I just haven't got on well with in Fantasy Premier League. One of those would be, what's his name? Coutinho. Whenever I had Coutinho, he didn't do that well. When I didn't have him, he did amazing. Lukaku, for me, is always going to be one of the best scoring strikers in the league. Do I think he's a better finisher than the likes of Agüero? I personally don't. I prefer Agüero and Kane myself, season long anyway. But Lukaku at the right time of the year can be a fantastic option. So far this season, out of 5 appearances, I believe the first game he didn't start though, so it'd be 4 starts. 15 attempts on goal, all of which have come from inside the box. 7 big chances in total, 9 shots on target. Now, that puts him top with Callum Wilson and Gabriel Jesus for big chances in total. As far as big chances scored, he's actually second to Mitrović and joint second with Murray. So, on target, Lukaku is second after Mitrović. Jesus also has 9 shots on target. So he is up there as far as stats go. But total attempts is a bit behind the likes of Agüero, Mitrović, Jimenez and Callum Wilson, but he's not far behind Callum Wilson by any means. But with Agüero having that many attempts, I just feel like he should be scoring more in a season, especially if I believe Agüero is a better finisher. As far as expected goals, Lukaku is actually highest on expected goals. I don't think he was last week. So he's got 3.15 expected goals, whereas Agüero's on 2.79. So both are outperforming their expected goal ratio, actually in the pluses for that. So both look in form, which is of course a plus. Whereas Callum Wilson is actually underperforming compared to the chances that he's had. Gabriel Jesus is severely underperforming. Mitrović is overperforming according to the kind of chances he had. I've just seen Benteke's. He's really underperforming compared to the chances. Assists, Agüero has been bringing in assists, which kind of helps when he doesn't score. Expected assists wise, Firmino is actually top. Callum Wilson is there as well. Callum Wilson bringing in some assists. Agüero as well. Lukaku isn't really bringing much as far as assists is concerned, but that really doesn't matter if he scores enough. Expected goal involvement, Firmino is actually highest, Callum Wilson, but then Lukaku beats Agüero, but as far as outperforming the expected goals, Agüero is outperforming it and doing better with the kind of chances and kind of assists that he's actually getting and getting points. So for me right now, with the season ticker the way it is looking, Man United have Wolves, West Ham and Newcastle in the next 3. So those are good 3 fixtures. They do then have Chelsea, but then it's Everton and Bournemouth before Man City. So that's not a bad run of fixtures. There could be goals there against Chelsea and Man City, of course, for Lukaku. But then you have a look at Manchester City's fixtures do turn after Cardiff and Brighton. You've then got Liverpool, Burnley, Tottenham, Southampton, Man United. So there is the possibility that... Do you really want to risk not having Agüero for Cardiff and Brighton Hove Albion unless he's injured? But if he is injured, potentially you could then make a straight swap to Lukaku. He looks the best option in that kind of price bracket after Sergio Agüero. Okay, so we've got a question on Mitrović or Zaha. For me right now, Mitrović is easily outperforming Zaha. Every time I talk about strikers, when I'm talking about Agüero, when I'm talking about Lukaku, when I'm talking about Kane, if I'm ever looking at strikers, even if it's Callum Wilson and Danny Ings, Mitrović is always turning up in the underlying stats and is actually getting returns. Zaha, of course, did have an injury, and Crystal Palace look so much better with Zaha playing. But for me right now, unless the fixtures were severely in Palace's favour, Mitrović seems a better option to me than Zaha. And that's a gut feeling more than... and off of the underlying stats, of course. But for me, Mitrović seems the better option. Palace do have an okay next 4 fixtures: Newcastle, Bournemouth, Wolves, and then Everton. But in game week 10, it turns Arsenal, Chelsea, Tottenham, 3 games in a row. Whereas for me, Fulham, I've got to find them first. Watford and Everton next. Then it is Arsenal, but then it's Cardiff, Bournemouth, and Huddersfield. So those look good to me for Mitrović to carry on returning. I also do like the look of, and I'll bring it up now, Raúl Jimenez. Okay, they do have Man United next, and in game week 11 they have Tottenham, and then in game week 12 they have Arsenal, but they've got a run of 4 fixtures: Southampton, Palace, Watford, Brighton Hove Albion, where I think Raúl Jimenez looked very good last game week, but could look very good, or has looked very good overall, and looks like it's just going to take a bit of time before he's really returning some decent points. So I definitely like the look of Raúl Jimenez, but I'd say right now Mitrović is the way to go. I know I don't have him in my side right now. We'll see what Ings does, but Ings' place is at risk because Southampton don't have the best fixtures. But Ings came in because of price. I kind of wish, because Raúl Jimenez was in contention, and I wish I'd taken that risk now. But we'll see what Ings does. But I think Wolves' fixtures definitely look better than Southampton's anyway. Okay, I see a lot of people asking about Richarlison. Now, for me, I personally don't know why so many people want me to talk about Richarlison, because he hasn't been playing. So anything I can suggest to you is based off of what he did in the first 4 game weeks of the season. And can I actually bring that up? I think I can. There's a way to game week range. So if I go to 1 to 3, because I believe he got sent off in game week 3. For me, the one thing I do remember, even though I did bring him in for game week 3, his underlying stats suggested that he wasn't going to keep returning the way he did. Now, people can overperform their underlying stats. If he just gets in the right place at the right time, then potentially he could keep scoring the way he was scoring. Expected goals in the first 3 game weeks is only based off of that. Richarlison was on a 0.96, behind in the same price bracket Kennedy, Hendrick, Grosh, Lucas Moura, but above the likes of Pedro, Mkhitaryan, Bernardo Silva, Walcott, Brooks, Will Hughes, Iwobi, Lamela. So, of course, Lamela didn't play much in that period, though. As far as performance compared to it, he was very, very... He was clearly outperforming his underlying stats. His expected goals, he was scoring more than the chances he had suggested. So was Roberto Pereira from Watford. So was Lucas Moura, but it's a bit more reasonable. Mané was, but again, a bit more reasonable. Looking at the likes of Pedro was scoring around what he should. Maddison was scoring around what he should. So, of course, that could mean that he's just doing that well. And then as far as assists go, Richarlison was really not creating many chances at all. And expected assists is very low for him. As far as like goal underlying stats in actual numbers, attempts on goal, you had plenty of people with more attempts. If I can find him, I can read out some names that had more attempts than him. So he had 5 attempts on goal in the first 3 game weeks. Wijnaldum, Redmond, Ndidi, Josh Murphy, Lamina, Knockaert, Will Hughes, Gundogan, Damari Gray, Hendrick. They all had Brooks more chances on goal than Richarlison. If we go to inside the box, which may be a bit of a more fair comparison, you had Knockaert, Hendrick, Brooks, all with more shots from inside the box than Richarlison. Big chances in total. Again, that might be fairer. Richarlison had 2 big chances. That was less than Lucas Moura, who had 3. But on the same kind of playing field, if we're looking at similar price range as Pedro, as Brooks, as Hendrick, as Walcott, as Kennedy, as Grosh and Iwobi. With on target, Richarlison again drops down the pecking order as far as that. He's below Pereira, below Schürrle, but again, not below many in that price range, below Pedro. So for me, that suggests that he's not going to keep that kind of return up. I still brought him in because the fixtures were good for Everton at the time, so I thought it was possible that he could keep up that return. Then as far as chances created, if I can even find him in the table, okay, there he is. So he created 2 chances. None of them were big chances. So he's definitely only really a goal threat. So for me, yes, sometimes I get drawn into players because they are just scoring points. And if he continued to score points, sometimes you do have to just ignore the underlying stats. But there's better options than Richarlison, especially with the fixtures now for Everton starting to look a little worse. They have Arsenal next. It is then Fulham, Leicester, Palace, then Man United, Brighton, Hove Albion, Chelsea. So at the beginning of the season, I was willing to take that risk on Richarlison because of the fixtures. I don't think I'm really looking at him for now. We have discussed Hazard already. For me, I'm keeping faith with Hazard, especially with Southampton next. Okay, so we had some questions about... I agree, A. Sullivan. I think Richarlison is a trap. But we've got more questions about midfielders. We've got Madison being wanted to talk about. We've got Vardy and we've got Lucas Moura. So I'll try and cover all of that. Really big discussions on midfield. So for me, we'll go to Lucas Moura first. We discussed how he was outperforming his expected goals total. But if we now change to all matches, back to all matches, because Lucas Moura has been available, as has Madison, for every single game so far. So Moura, of course, has scored 3 goals. Madison has scored 2. Madison's clearly on penalties if Vardy's not playing, but the likelihood of Vardy not being pretty nailed on all season is unlikely. Total attempts, we got Moura on, if I can find him. That's surprising. He's very low, which means 7 goal attempts, 3 of them scored. So for me, that's not really good enough to believe the returns are going to continue. Because he's got less than Jota, Sanchez, Lingard, Kovacic, who I'm keeping an eye on Kovacic because 8 goal attempts for 6 million isn't awful, and it's a cheap way into that Chelsea side if they've got good fixtures. But I mean, in the same sort of price bracket as Lucas Moura, Pedro has had 15 attempts. Schürrle's had 19 attempts. Ruben Neves, of course, none from inside the box, but has had 14 attempts. You've got Madison on 12, seeing as we're also considering Madison. From inside the box, again, I'm looking way down the table. 5 shots from inside the box. Walcott has had more. Bernardo Silva's had more. Schürrle's had more. Fraser has had more. So, yes, he's definitely returned points. Big chances in total is a more significant number because he had 3 big chances in total. So potentially just doesn't shoot unless he has a good opportunity, which isn't a bad thing, but sometimes you want a player that's just a bit greedy, a bit goal hungry. But he's had 3 big chances. That's the same as Eden Hazard. It's the same as Grosh. It's more than Mané. So that is an argument in favour of Lucas Moura. And then if we look at his shots on target, again, he does drop off significantly there. But again, it could just be that because he's waiting and biding his time to get good chances, that when he does get a chance, likelihood of him scoring is higher. 7 shots, 3 goals. That is a decent goal conversion rate. So if I actually click goal conversion, I think we'll find that Lucas Moura is quite high at 42.9% goal conversion. That's better than Hazard's 35.7, better than Fraser's 33.3. Do I think he'll keep it up? I'd say it's unlikely, but his goal conversion is definitely looking significant. As far as distribution, chances created by Moura, he's not really turning up anywhere high on the table. So you're not really looking for many assists from Lucas Moura. Whereas I think that's where Madison maybe has the benefit, because 8 chances created, 1 big chance. Assists so far is 1 assist. And then, I mean, it's not great underlying stats. There's people with a lot more chances created. But Madison was never too far behind Moura on goal threat. 2 goals so far. 12 attempts on goal, 4 from inside the box. Would like a bit more inside the box. 1 big chance. Goal conversion's a lot lower, 16.7, but shot accuracy's at 50%. Then I believe people were like Pedro or Willian as well. For me right now, Pedro's clearly outperforming Willian. I can do a direct comparison as well, but there he is. And to me, I think Pedro seems like a more Sarri winger than Willian. He's had more minutes, had more starts, so we have to take that into account. That's Pedro. But 3 goals to 1. Assists. Willian's had 2 assists to 0, though, for Pedro. Goal involvement is... FPL goal involvement is actually higher for Willian, but that's because if you win a penalty, you get an assist in FPL, whereas it's not considered an assist generally. Penalty box area touches, though, 24 to 15. 15 goal attempts to 3 in favour of Pedro. 10 inside the box to 2 in favour of Pedro. On target, 6 to 2. Big chances 2 to 0. Minutes per attempt 22.2 to 81.7. Whereas chances created, it's actually in favour of Willian. 11 chances created compared to 5. So goals being more valuable than assists, unless Willian comes out as more nailed on than Pedro. With Pedro's value at lower, I think Pedro is the better look there. For me personally, with the Maddison-Vardy issue, I think if you're deciding you've got the money for a striker in that kind of price range, fair enough. But I've already kind of figured out that so far this season, I would be looking at 1 premium striker and 2 cheap, and Vardy isn't cheap, so that makes me go towards Maddison. So yeah, for me, Maddison over Vardy. As far as Lucas Moura, I don't think it's sustainable, the amount of returns he has. Oh, thank you, Joe BQ. I've had that before, so doesn't surprise me. Fatter, older Troy Deeney. I'd like to think... Actually, how old is Troy? Am I actually older than him? Because I am, believe it or not, I am quite old. And here's where I go off on one of those weird tangents that'll probably never make a stream clip. And I better tell the wife that I need to shave my head because I'm actually older than Troy Deeney, so you know. And how much does he weigh? I'm actually about the same weight as him. So, anyway. Should I switch from Salah to Mané, have Hazard, Fraser and David Silva? Say Q if you think. Do people dab anymore? Anyway. The Salah-Mané debate I've already kind of looked at. For me, the issue with Mané is he's outperforming the chances he's having, and Salah's underperforming the chances he's having. So I think you've got to go with one or the other. Right now, if it continues this way, Mané is going to outperform Salah season long. I am, I guess, gambling that Salah's going to get better as far as his returns, and Mané's going to digress. Now, if that doesn't happen, I'm making the wrong call here. But if you were just purely going to go off underlying stats, apart from expected goals, they're pretty equal. The thing in Salah's favour is he's got more attempts on goal and he's creating more chances. But, you know, I still think I'd probably be looking at Salah for me personally. Lacazette or Mitrović? For me right now, Mitrović is on fire, but if Lacazette can nail on a starting place, Arsenal's fixtures are still pretty damn good. Everton, Watford, Fulham, Leicester, Crystal Palace. Now, if that's kind of the way you've built your squad and you can afford Lacazette in and he does get that place nailed on, I think Lacazette is a really good look. Fixtures are a lot better than Fulham's, and of course, if Arsenal get their act together, Lacazette could really return some good points for you. For me, Lord Nelson, I've looked over it. I prefer Maddison to Richarlison. Now, don't get me wrong, the fixtures are probably in favour of Leicester. I think at the start of the season, you could kind of take the gamble on Richarlison to continue returning at the rate he was. But I think with his underlying stats, now that the fixtures are going to get harder, I don't see Richarlison continuing the kind of output he's currently has. Nazim Bou Ali, I have to kind of agree with you there. I know, see, there's this, because it's such a massive debate right now, Mohamed Salah People have said, oh, he's out of form, and then he gets an assist or a goal, and people say, no, he's not. When I watched a lot of Mo Salah last season, and I watched a lot of him now, and I'm looking at it thinking, you know what? He doesn't look like he's playing the same. Now, I think part of that is I think he's also playing a different role than he was playing. And I don't know if it's on purpose by... How have I forgot his name? Klopp. But he seems very, very central. And almost if he's playing the striker. So... The eye test, he's still getting the chances. He's not far away from getting returns. But he doesn't feel the same player to me, which is a worry. I'll admit that. So there's part of me that's still looking at underlying stats going, I think there could be a big haul around the corner. There is part of me that is worried. I do want to actually talk about Matt Doherty, or I don't know how to say it. There's no C in it, but I'm assuming it's Doherty. But anyway, he was someone on my radar, but I went with Bennett just because of the cheapness. And the issue I have is because I've gone Bennett, because he is a 4 million defender that's starting, I'm almost not wanting to have two Wolves defenders, if that makes sense. Because Bennett has started every game this season. And then Wan-Bissaka looks like he generally will start if he can. But then after that, you don't really have anyone in that kind of cheap price bracket that you can bring into your side. And having two 4 million defenders has helped me have the likes of Hazard and Salah, as Alex Stevens has joined the flock. But Matt Doherty has looked really, really good. Penalty area touches, he's got 15. The next best is Johnny from Wolves at 11. They both dropped in price to 4.4 as well. I'm very tempted to kind of look at them purely because at 4.4, that kind of threat going forward looks very, very promising. And they've got 4 decent fixtures after this Man United game. Maybe I can get in there before there is some significant sort of price rise. Total attempts on goal, he is top with 8. Johnny is second with 6. That is 4.5 and lower. If I put the price bracket all the way up to max, of course Alonso is going to be higher. But penalty area touches, 15 for Doherty to Alonso's 17. He is second for attempts on goal with Rudiger and Shaw to Alonso. Big chances, he's only lost out to Nathan Ake. He's got 2. Shots on target, Mustafi, Keane and Shaw have had more shots on target, but he's still up there. That's a 4.4 million player that's still up there for goal threat. And as far as distribution goes, chances created, Holebas is top there. Doherty's got 6. Not awful. It's not as much as Davies, Bertrand, Trippier, Mendy, Digny, Azpilicueta, Alonso. Johnny actually has more chances created from the same side. And then big chances created. Johnny doesn't actually beat Doherty for that. Doherty's got 1 big chance created. That is less than me, Rico, Bellerin, Cedric, Wan-Bissaka, Trippier, Mendy, Davies, Digny and Robertson. So, as Philip Veltzer joins the chat, thank you so much for joining the flock. Joins the flock, subscribes. So for me right now, Doherty looks like a very, very good option. And I think I have enough to bring him in for Bennett, which could be a move I make. Of course, I know Ings isn't playing. Agüero is a risk. Mendy is a risk. But if they're not out for long, I won't be taking them out. And then as far as Ings goes, he does have Wolves the next game. Could maybe have time to make that move to Doherty. But we will see. Easier move would be Holebas. But I just feel like Holebas now has Fulham, then when they're past Arsenal, that's a good run of fixtures there, and he's really been creating chances as well. So I think there's plenty of options in defence that could be returning. With the arm defence, Alonso, Robertson and Mendy not really returning like we wanted them to, then I think potentially there's other options we could really, really look at. Mitrović or Lacazette? I've already answered that. For right now, Mitrović, because I'm worried about Lacazette's starts. I know he started the last two. If he keeps starting and you can afford Lacazette, though, I think Lacazette is a good option. With Hazard and Mané in my team, do you think I could captain Vardy at home to Huddersfield? Problem I have with captaining Vardy, Vignesh, is he's one of those players that scores 1 goal a game. Doesn't really get those big returns. Joby Q. It does depend on your device as well that you're listening to, but my laptop, unfortunately, is quite loud. I do hopefully one day plan to get an actual PC that I can have under the desk and further away from the microphone. But it's kind of that balance of me trying to get my voice so you can hear it properly and not getting the computer fan in, and I just haven't found it yet, to be fair. John Noonan, no one in the top 10 has Salah. It's still 5 game weeks in, is what I will say first of all. And yeah, of course, people in the top 10 right now, will they still be there? Some of them might, but after 5 game weeks, you can't really look at rank and go, well, this is the way you have to go, because those players have these players. Gareth Roberts wants to know the best midfielder below 5 million. For me, I know Ward looks like a very promising option because he is playing up front for Cardiff. Now, I know it's Cardiff, which isn't fantastic. But you've got Billing and Camarasa. Rouse is just underneath. Ward there, MacArthur, Costa, Westwood, and Diddy. But for me right now, just on a side note, I have no idea why Torreira isn't starting for Arsenal. But anyway, for me, Billing is the one that scored the most, but I really like the idea of Ward because Ward has been starting up front and played in the last 2 games significant minutes. And I think the manager came out and said something about Danny Ward being one of their best strikers, even though he's classed as a midfielder. Billing is probably more secure as far as guaranteed to play if you're just thinking of a bench option, because he's played every single minute possible for Huddersfield. So if you just want a safe route and he's going to be on your bench, Billing looks like the one, mate. But Ward does look promising as an option there. Sounds like a Virgin train at high speeds. Gordon, I can always rely on you to take the mick out of me. I appreciate it though. That's what mates do, right? Any jammy picks of this game week, JNO? I did kind of pick some jammy picks because of going over captain choice. Leicester against Huddersfield, I like the look of. Pereira, Maddison, Vardy are really the ones that stand out, but Brighton is capable of points. Always has been. I've always said if you're looking for a cheap person, Brighton just kind of ticks along getting points. Damari Gray looks like he could continue to get some points as well. I mean, Newcastle now have Crystal Palace and Leicester, and then once they're past Man United, Brighton Hove Albion, Southampton, Watford, Bournemouth. Potentially, Kennedy was a good look last season. He's not really done much this season to really go towards him, but that could be a bit of a jammy pick. You've got Burnley. Goodmanson, is he still out? I think Goodmanson was out. Don't see any injury news on him, so maybe now that Burnley have been knocked out, you could look at Burnley. For me, when looking at Burnley, it's either one of their strikers, Goodmanson, or a defender. And then Palace, I think you're going for Zaha if you're going Palace, to be fair. So Fulham with Watford and Everton next. Vieto and Schürrle both have looked pretty decent, to be fair to them. It is then Arsenal, but then it's Cardiff, Bournemouth, Huddersfield. So there is options in that Fulham side that isn't just Mitrović. Just Mitrović has done so well. It's almost like, why would you just ignore Mitrović? But of course, the price budget you have may mean you're priced out of Mitrović. Richarlison, I've spoken about already. I personally don't have faith in Richarlison. I think with the fixtures getting harder, he isn't going to return the way he has returned. The underlying stats don't suggest he'll keep scoring points. Will Hughes, I mean, there's nothing about Will Hughes that makes me want to pick him over some others in the same kind of price bracket. I mean, Will Hughes, 5 million, very cheap. There's probably no one cheaper than him that's outperforming him so far as goals scored. But he's only scored 1, 9 attempts on goal. If you can afford just a little bit more. I mean, Billings had... Wait, what have I clicked? I've clicked on total goals. Yarmolenko, by the way. What performance by Yarmolenko. I mean, I suppose if you need a £5 million midfielder and you can't spend any more than that, then potentially Will Hughes is an option. 4 shots from inside the box, 3 shots on target. I just feel like with someone like Fraser at 5.7 and Schürrle at 5.9, I know they're more expensive, but just kind of lean towards spending that little bit extra. It all depends. If you just want him on the bench, then Will Hughes isn't going to be a bad choice. As far as chances created, again, Will Hughes, 6 chances created. Tom Kearney's created 6 chances as well. He has 4.8 million. Rouse has created 7 chances, 3 big chances. He has 4.9. McCarthy's created 7 chances. He's 4.9. Seri, 9 chances, 2 big chances. He's 5.4. So I just feel like there's not enough that... He's not a bad pick, but there's nothing about him that are like, yes, I really want Will Hughes on my side. Sorry, just trying to find some more questions. Josh Minor, I've been streaming about 58 minutes, so we'll probably be calling it at some point because I'm the one doing dinner tonight. Oh, wow, Gordon Gilbody. Monday club at the local pub. All drinks £2.50. I need to know what pub you're going to, mate, because I do not get £2.50 pints. Who am I captaining? Most likely Salah. For my sins. No one is looking at Kane because he's looked out of sorts compared to other options. I mean, if we look at expected goals, you'd expect Kane to be right near the top, but he's below Ings, he's below Murray, Arnautovic, Joshua King, Mitrović, Callum Wilson, Jesus, Agüero, Lukaku. If you look at how he's performing compared to his expected goals, again, Kane is really low. Below Ings, below Iheanacho, Kamara, like Sorloth, like Raul Jimenez. Just to spend that kind of money, and I know I'm saying this with Salah still on my side, but to spend that kind of money on a player and for them not to be looking good, and to me, Salah's been looking better than Kane, I just don't think you can really do it. 12.5 million, I've already got Salah, so with Salah, can I afford Kane? Probably not. and Kane just hasn't looked worth having. I mean, if we actually just look at his normal stats, usually he is very high on the total attempts table. Kane last season, the reason I kept him for so long was because he was having the most attempts on goal. And I was just like, it just needs a turn in form and he will start to perform. But right now, total attempts on goal, Agüero's on 25, Mitrović is on 20, Raul Jimenez at 5.5 million has had 17 attempts on goal, Callum Wilson 6.3 with 16 attempts on goal, Ings 14 attempts on goal. These are all cheap players. Even Benteke 13 attempts on goal. Don't go near Benteke because his shot accuracy is pretty poor. His goal conversion is absolutely terrible. But Aubameyang has had more shots on goal, and everyone's been saying Aubameyang's been wasteful and not looked good. Joshua King, who's disappointed a lot of people, has had 9 attempts on goal. Do you want to know how many attempts on goal Kane has had? Why haven't I seen him? There he is. He's had 12. 12 for 12.5 million is not that great, especially when you're getting outperformed by Ings, Arnautovic, Wilson, Raul Jimenez and Mitrović. As far as shots inside the box, Kane, again, all of his shots are from inside, 12 for 12. But Ings has had 12 attempts on goal from inside the box. Raul Jimenez has had 12. Mitrović on 13. Callum Wilson with 16. Big chances in total. Kane's had 4. Again, losing out to Mitrović, Raul Jimenez, Jesus, Lukaku, Wilson. Shots on target, usually something that Kane's quite high in. He's had 4 shots on target. Toussaint has had more shots on target. Lacazette, with less minutes, has had more shots on target. Mooney has had more shots on target. Again, Benteke has had more shots on target, and Benteke's looked awful. And it's not like assists are something that Kane has in his locker to like make up for that fact. If we look at chances created, Kane's had 5 chances created. 2 big chances, to be fair to him, so he has got 1 assist. But it's almost like him playing alongside Lucas Moura has made him play deeper. Because if I look at his heat map, because from what I remember from the games I have watched, he is playing a lot deeper than he used to. And I know he used to drop deep anyway, but to me, he seems to be dropping a lot deeper than he was before. And the hot spots in his heat map are out wide on the left. Yes, there is a hot spot in the box, but the hottest spot is out on the left for some reason. So, don't get me wrong, Kane is a very capable forward, but he has looked out of sorts. False 9, I've got 52, but I do have Wan-Bissaka coming in, so I should have 61. I then have Ings and Ryan playing tonight. Robertson, dope or nope. Robertson is still a great player, don't get me wrong. The reason I've not gone with him is just because I think, well, I assumed Mendy and Alonso would be the ones that I really needed to have. Now with Mendy, with the injury, Alonso not returning, am I as confident about that? No. But with the fixtures, I thought, you know what, I'm going to go Alonso and Mendy. So Robertson I still think is a dope pick, but I just couldn't bring myself to have 18 million in defence. That was the issue. Chris Crowfoot, I still think Kane will bag 20 goals. I just think right now Lukaku and Agüero look better. Lacazette, if he could stay in the side, looks better. Best midfield option under 7 million, Ryan Fraser. Right now, Ryan Fraser is the standout option under 7 million. For me, I think Hazard, especially with the role he's been given, could easily outperform Kane if form continues. Do I think Kane will get over this bad patch? Yes, I do. If Salah blanks, what's plan B? To be honest, if Salah blanks, plan B would probably be Mané as cover. As far as Vince Chapman's question, Maddison, Richarlison or David Silva, I still worry about rotation of David Silva, but he keeps starting. So I can't keep saying that while he's starting. So David Silva looks amazing. For me, Maddison looks good. So it'd be between those two. If your budget needs you to pick Maddison, then Maddison. Otherwise, David Silva. Richarlison, I just don't think will continue to return the points. Prabdev Kanejaun, thank you for joining the flock, my friend. Should I put trust in Arsenal forwards for their match with Everton? You definitely could. I really think if Lacazette keeps starting, Lacazette is the go-to man there. Fraser, sorry Jerome Hughes. You know what I'm like, Jerome. You know I butcher names. Like, it's what I do. Even when I'm not streaming, I just say names out loud to butcher them. Aaron Chen, I would always go with the player you think is more likely to keep a clean sheet. Now, for me, there's the possibility of Patricio clean sheet at Old Trafford with a lot of save points, but if I was gambling, I'd probably go Foster if I had to pick between the two. Should I take out Pedro for Fraser? You definitely could. It depends. If you already have Hazard, then Pedro could go. But if you don't have Hazard, I think ideally you want a Chelsea player in there. Anyway, guys, I am going to call the stream there for today. So thank you so much for tuning in for this episode. If you've enjoyed it, please hit that like button. Please share it out. The replay of this live stream should go out this afternoon. I'll let it go out this afternoon, and then we'll be continuing on with the content during the week going into Game Week 6. Hopefully I'll be able to stream maybe Thursday night. We will see if I can get on to stream on Thursday night, so feel free to join. We'll be streaming with the Wildcats tomorrow as well, so make sure to tune in for that if you want to join that stream. And of course, check out all the various links in the description if you want to support the channel in any way. Various people have supported this stream by sponsoring the stream, and various people have also joined the Patreon page where we're at 15 patrons right now. So that is a way you can support the channel and help me continue to grow and continue to make content. So thank you so much for those of you that have supported the channel. But just watching and liking and interacting on the stream is all that you really need to do. Everything else is just extra. If you have any questions, do go and check me out on Twitter. When I do get the time, and it's not always, I do respond to people's tweets. So it's at JNO United. Go check that out. Nimfria coming in with a quick plug. I don't think I've seen her name the whole stream, but she quickly jumps in and goes, oh, by the way, I'm streaming next. So go over and check out Nimfria's stream as well. I may jump into that, but I do have to start cooking dinner. So unfortunately, I may not be able to join, but we'll see. I can sometimes have my iPad on the side. So go check that out afterwards. As we get another subscriber, PLAP, Manikit. Probably butchered that, but yeah. All that's been said now, all of that out the way. So thank you guys. Hopefully, if you do have any Southampton and Brighton Hove Albion players in your side, they get you the points that you need to have a good game week. I've been JNO. This has been FPL Today. And remember, it's all about the game.